Okay, am I live? Hello, everyone. I am live, I think. Yes, all good. I'm live. Awesome. I'm sorry for being late. I'm life's so hectic lately. And honestly, I had a bit of a sleep in because I had a tooth out a couple of days ago and my jaw's infected. I'm on antibiotics and I'm feeling a bit ordinary. Oh, it's just one thing or another at the moment. But in saying that, I'm feeling a lot better because I haven't got my jaw out here like it was before. And I may have some dogs barking. But I think they're okay at the moment. I actually have a new puppy. We'll introduce her a little bit later in the live, but she's been getting a little bit barky. If it gets a bit barky, well, it's because I've got dogs everywhere. Okay, I'm just checking my settings here. and that. Okay, I think all is good. I just want to make sure the comments aren't delayed. They shouldn't be delayed, but just let me, I think that's all good. Okay, let me just check this to make sure. Not sure I've got top chat or live chat here. All messages are visible. Okay, we'll do that, and hopefully that'll make every message come through, because sometimes I've missed out on some comments. Okie dokie. So I'll just wait for some people to come on. And in the meantime, I have a sip of my coffee and I've got three questions that's come through for me to talk about today. In the meantime, I have been asked, so I had a request to meet Mr. Squiggles, my puppy, Mr. Squiggles. Now, I'm going to have to relocate myself here a little bit. I've got one dog with her chin on my leg and she's sitting on the other chair. Minnie, as we all know, is usually in every live, is on my lap. So I'll just do a little dog introduction to you. There's Minnie, as we know. And I might introduce you to Ruby. Wait a sec. Oh, my gosh. Oh, I tried on some. Okay. So let me just get. Oopsie doopsie. Squiggles, what are you doing? I'm going to do a couple of dog introductions here. Here's Ruby. I've got a bug. Oh, got a bit of a sore shoulder at the moment. So these guys. Oh, Suki's in the back. So here's Ruby. This way, Mim will come back. So there's Ruby. Ruby is my. She's a sister. So she's a blue heeler cross dachshund. I've got a sister as well. So Luby, I've had her from 8 weeks old. She was a rescue puppy. So Ruby, there was a litter of them dumped outside the local dump. It was very sad. They were dumped out there as 4-week-old puppies. A local girl found them. A local girl's friend found them, actually. And the friend took them to the vets and got them all back to health. And then I was recovering from a track work injury at the time. And it seems every time I have a track work injury, I have to get another dog or two. In this instance, I got two. So her sister's over on the lounge there. And you can see she's lost one of her eyes. So we had a bit of a tragedy in 2019. Ruby got kicked by one of my horses. They didn't purposely kick her. She just got in the yard when I was bringing them in. And she's lucky to be here, actually, and in full health because she ruptured her eye oh my God, it was horrendous. I was so traumatized. The whole eye, like the pink area, was bulging out, and it was terrible. But she had a brain injury. She had swelling on the brain, and they weren't sure if she was going to come through, and if she did, whether she was going to have any brain damage. So she was in the overnight. Oh, she was in for 3-4 days. The 24-hour clinic, because it happened on a Friday afternoon, didn't it? You cost a lot of money. Yeah. And but all good. She lost her eye. Well, actually, there's a little shrunken eye in there, actually, a little eye, but we don't have to take it out unless she has any reaction. But yeah, she's good. She's all healthy, and she goes around like she's I think, and she's a bit round, like, oh, look at this tummy. Look at this tummy. Okay, we'll pop Ruby back down there. Minnie, you move over. Mr. Squiggles. I'll get Mr. Squiggles. Come on, Squiggies. You've been requested to meet everybody. Come on, Squiggies. Okay. Squiggies. Oh, my gosh. Okay. Now, Minnie, you're going to have Min's on the chair. Ruby loves Squiggles. So here is Mr. Squiggles. He's Mr. Squiggles. So this is Bailey, and his nickname is Squiggles. So you can see, yes, I know. So I've had, come on, guys, it's Crystal. So Bailey is, hello, darling. I know he loves mummy. I've had Bailey from 5 weeks old, and about 13 now. He's my only dog that is not a rescue. He's one of the trainers I used to ride for up on the Central Coast, Kristen Buchanan. Her dog had puppies, and she brought them into the track one day. I already had my other little Jack Russell Bundy, who's no longer with me. Had Bundy for a long while. Got bitten by a snake, so that was tragic. We was very upset, weren't we? Yeah. But it was just Bundy, and then Bailey and I for Bundy and Bailey and I for years and years, until I decided to get more dogs. And we've got a little bit of arthritis happening in our joints, so we're going to get special arthritis tablets. I've got a few oldies here, but Bailey I've had from 5 weeks old, so he's been with me a long while, and he's been very patient with me getting other dogs. And he's Jack Russell was his mum was a short-haired Jack Russell, and his dad is a Maltese cross corgi, and he looks a spitting image of his dad. So he's a fluffy child. Yes, he loves to catch. Well, he's not that fast for catching rabbits now, but he loves to catch mice. Hey, or the other dogs catch the mice and he eats them, and maybe the odd rabbit. Hey, so he's beautiful. Yeah, so I love my dogs. I love my horses, and I love my dogs. And I've accumulated dogs and horses and got rid of the partner. Hey, yes, yeah. Hey. Okay, so that's Mr. Squiggles. Look at his fat little tummy. Look at him. Mrs. Squiggy, say hello. Okay, so we'll do, oh my God, you're heavy, Squiggles. Rather round. I think we need to go on a diet. Okay, there we go. Okay, Suki, what are you doing down there? Suki's behind there. So we'll just do 2 doggy introductions today, and I'll introduce you to another 2 next week. We've got a few to go through. I've got 7 now. Okay, so let's get into our live questions. I'll go to my phone so I can read them. Okie dokie. So find the questions. I'm just going to make sure my dog can go out. Yep, she's got it. It's a new puppy, making sure she can go out to the toilet, because we're doing a bit of house training at the moment, toilet training. Okay, looking for my questions here, guys. We're just done with them. I had them. Oh, here we go. Okay, so my first question is from Natalie. Natalie Ranger. Hey, Natalie, how are you? Thank you for your question. So, Natalie's question is, how do you decide when it's time to move from hand lead work to saddling up? Saddle recommendations, fitting, and do you do any yard work with the saddle first before riding? Many thanks, Natalie. So, oops, let me just go back to this one. What am I doing? Okay, so how do you decide when it's time to move on from hand lead work to saddling up? There's a few there's a few steps to go through. So I've got a process, and I actually have a flow chart that I'll share in the group. I'll put this down as don't wait a sec. Let me just sorry, I'm just writing down. That's my new puppy there. we Q&A. Hey, Luby. Okay. That's what I was going to do. Upload the flow chart. So when you get your Off the Track Thoroughbred, the first thing you want to do, so I go through a process of making sure that you do what I call the physical rehabilitation before we go into the re-education, which is your in-hand work as well as your under saddle work. So when I'm saying the physical rehabilitation, you get your Off the Track Thoroughbred, you want to make sure that they have no sort of physical pain. Their diet and their health is good. Their gut has been healed, because quite often, nearly always, Off the Track Thoroughbreds will have ulcers, gastric ulcers, sometimes hindgut ulcers, and acidosis. So the hindgut's going to be very acidic. It causes discomfort. It causes pain. So I like to get them off the track, give them a spell, 3 to 6 months, or if they're recovering from an injury, I give them, it may be a year or more, depending on the type of injury. And while they're having a spell, I address the physical issues, such as I will have them scoped for ulcers, and if needed, treated for ulcers, and also change their diet from a grain diet, because they're on a high grain, high concentrate diet in racing. So we want to start to heal their gut and change from the high concentrate, high grain diet to a high forage, sugar-free and low starch diet. So it's really important to get their gut health right first before you think of saddling, because behavior problems, we want to be able to eliminate any behavior problems in hand, but also under saddle, and if you come across them, and also eliminate the fact that they could be from discomfort and pain. So I like to make sure that their gut health is being addressed. I've had them on a nice high forage diet, and they're comfortable. You've treated for ulcers if need be, and any other issues such as chiropractic, soundness, a vet check, and all of that. Basically, a nice whole round check over their body to make sure that they're sound. And then sounds like you've started with your in-hand work, from hand lead work to saddling up. So saddling up, I don't move on to the under saddle work until I have the horse responding to nice light aids in the basic responses. So that's what we call Equitation Science basic responses, the 10 basic responses of stop and go and turn and yield. Now I've got some videos on my YouTube channel that demonstrate this. I've got a course coming up Well, it was actually ready, but in the academy, and I'll also share some in the group as well of the whole process of retraining ties. So that'll be really good. When I've got that up and out, I can show you exactly what I do and where the horse is at before I move to under saddle work. So I want to make sure that they understand the aids in hand in your groundwork first before you then start to apply your aids under saddle. So for an example, you want to make sure that your horse is light to stop. Okay, so you stop and go with lead pressure in the head collar, and then you can use that in the bit as well. So then I transfer over to a bridle and make sure the horse is stopping nice and lightly to the bridle. You want to make sure that they're nice and light to their forward response. So off the track thoroughbreds are quite often very lean into the pressure, lean into the bit, and they're on the forehand. So I don't start riding. I don't do under saddle work until I have the horse in self-carriage in their in-hand work. So that means stopping and going nice and lightly so that they're not leaning or bearing into the lead rope pressure or onto your head collar. They're not pushing into you. That they're standing when you've taught halt or stand, or what is called park in equitation science, that they're stopping and that their stop is very good. They don't walk off until you've asked them to move off. And guys, sorry, new puppy, dog. Bailey, don't be mean. So Bailey's, there's a cattle hoof down here, and he's being mean, but there's bones everywhere, guys. So, and then turn and yield. So you want to make sure, so before you go to your under saddle work, you want to make sure that your horse understands the aids of pressure release. So the aids are very similar in hand to under saddle. So you go forward by lead rein pressure forward. So they vary a little bit. So we have to change the go forward aid. So the go forward aid under saddle is our leg aid. So a little nudge with our lower leg, a firmer nudge if they don't respond, and release as soon as they respond. So our in hand is forward pressure with your lead rope. If they don't respond, then we incorporate the dressage whip. So just little taps. It's never as a punishment. It's just a little tap, 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 tap as pressure. And as soon as the horse goes forward, we release the pressure. So you want to make sure that all your responses on the ground are nice and light. The horse understands pressure and release, that they're in self-carriage, so that when you're going forward and you're leading, that they're not dragging, that's sort of heavy, that they're nice and light. And you have what we call obedience, that you can increase the stride length in hand, and that you can slow them down with very light lead rein pressure. And this is also called, what I said is self-carriage. So I call self-carriage in hand. It's got nothing to do with the shape of their neck. It's more that they are not leaning into the pressure. Oh my God, now I've got Ruby sitting on my lap here. Ruby and Minnie. Are you okay, Minnie? Minnie's getting squashed. Are you okay, Min? Do I have to pull my chair out a bit so you've got a bit more space? Are you okay, Lou? What was I saying? In hand. Yeah, so there you will notice off the track thoroughbreds are going to be on the forehand. The racing, the way they work in racing is that they tend to work on the forehand more than what we're expecting and wanting in our dressage and our equestrian. So starting to teach them to be in self-carriage, and also too, they lean into the bit in racing, and they'll use, I've got hiccups. Every time I do a live, I get hiccups. In racing, they'll lean into the bit, and they'll also use that leaning into the bit to help them balance. They sort of depend on it as a crutch to help them balance. So changing their whole balance and the way they use their body starts off with the in-hand work, and you want to make sure that they are balanced in their in-hand work. They're not leaning, that they're straight as well. So when you're asking them to go forward, that they're not drifting. It doesn't have to be perfect with your in-hand work, because it's, training is just we're continually going to evolve with our training over years and years, but you want them to be at obedience level, which is light in their stop and go, turning. So I also teach them. And have I got a YouTube video on turning? I don't think I do. I definitely have stop and go. And turning, asking them, teaching them how to use with pressure on the lead rein to the left. They step out with their left front leg, pressure to the right side. They step out with their right front leg. So that teaches them to turn and to step out and use their shoulders instead of leaning. So, but when horses lean, they're not turning correctly. Okay, they're not responding to the rein aid of stepping out with the left rein aid and left foreleg and shoulder, or right rein aid. So they step out or they lead. So all this is important to do in hand first before you go to under saddle work. So I hope that makes sense. As I said, I have got training coming out. I've got some training with the stop and go and teaching head down as well on YouTube. I've got more training coming out. And I've got the retraining with Thai series. I'll let everybody know when I've got a fair amount of lessons up for that. So you can follow that. That's in the academy. Okay, I'll have a sip of coffee and I'll go on to your next question. So I hope that makes sense, Natalie. Saddle recommendations. Fitting. And do you do any yard work with the saddle first before riding? So saddle recommendations. The saddle fit is so important, and I'm actually finding out so much more about it with upgrading my saddle recently. And it's so important to have your saddle professionally fitted before you start your under saddle work. You want to make sure that the saddle is balanced, that is not causing any pain, and that it has a nice wide channel, like at least 4 fingers. So something to think about. You want to make sure that in the channel gullet of your saddle that you can fit 4 fingers. This is generally for an off the track thoroughbred. Smaller ponies are going to be different. But you want to have a nice wide channel so that when the saddle sits on the back, okay, the panels are going to sit on either side of the spine and either side of the ligaments. So it's not going to be sitting on the spine itself and putting pressure on the spine, and it's not going to be sitting on the ligaments on both sides of the spine. That is really, really important. So I highly recommend having your saddle professionally fitted and making sure it's balanced for yourself and also for your horse. With saddle recommendations, I'm in Australia, and I'm not sure where you are, Natalie, but in Australia, Peter Horobin, they're amazing. Okay, so Peter Horobin does what they call, they're down in Victoria, Australia. You may be able to buy the saddles overseas as well. I think you might be able to. I can find out for you. You can get secondhand Peter Horobins. You can get new ones. They are expensive, like very expensive, in that my saddle was up around the over $5,000 mark. But I mean, my last Peter Horobin saddles, I mean, they last forever. I had them for 20 years, both my jump and my dressage saddle. Peter has changed the style of his saddles in that he now has what he calls a stride-free tree. So that's the tree in the saddles, and a stride-free tree has removed the traditional points that you have in the tree of the saddle, and instead it's like a plate, and it's curved, and it allows the shoulder to slide through. I'll do a video on saddle fitting, and I'll get some training off Peter as well, and I'll put that up in the group for you. But with saddle fitting, it's important to get a saddle that is professionally fitted for a start. And as you bring your horse, your off the track thoroughbred into work, they'll start to change shape. So you want to make sure that you are regularly checking your saddle and having a fitter come out and adjusting to the saddle to your new horse's shape. Such a major problem with behavior problems in horses is bad saddle fit. So it's a science in itself, saddle fit, and it's really good to be able to have an idea of even the basics of what you're looking for a start. The channel width, okay, 4 fingers down the channel, down the gullet, and my dog's going crazy here. You want to make sure that you've got nice clearance around the wither, that it's not putting any pressure down on the wither, and you also want to make sure that the pad, like the I'm having a mental blank. The underneath of the saddle is sitting firmly, okay, nice and even along their back, so there's no up and down ridges. And also too, it's really important with saddle fit, and this is where the traditional trees tend to not be cause some problems, is the horse's shoulder. So you'll think of the saddle, okay, is sitting on the horse, okay, so we've got the pommel and that. The horse's shoulder, when they stride out, needs to slide through underneath the saddle, okay, for free movement. And that's where the tree is really important, okay. So our tree is that triangle point in the bait saddles, and that they have the interchangeable gullets. I know the baits do have a different type of, it's still the plate tree, but they do come out, so they've got a bit of a bend and they do come out and back a little bit, which gives shoulder relief. But starting to think, when you've got your saddle sitting on the horse, if the gullet is too tight, the tree's too tight in there, that is going to come down, and it's not going to allow the shoulder to come through under the saddle. Okay, so I hope this, so you'll see here, if the is too tight, the horse's shoulder can't come through. So you imagine how uncomfortable that is for the horse, and you also can imagine how it's going to cause behavior problems, pain, and unhealthy muscle development. It damages this trapezius muscle. Apparently it wears down the trapezius muscle. So this is another reason to make sure that you go for a very good brand of saddle. Look at the type of tree that they have. If you go into, in Australia, Peter Horobin's saddlery, let me know if you want me to put some links up. I'll put a link up for you. And they may be available overseas as well. I'll find out for you. But so Peter Horobin has what he calls is the stride-free tree, and it allows the freedom for the horse's shoulder to go through. There's another company overseas called, they're in Canada, WHOLISTIC. I don't know if that's how you pronounce, Johann WHOLISTIC. He's actually got some books he's written. Have I got them here? Let me have a look. Ruby, dogs. Let me see. I'll have a look at the book. I know, sweetheart. Do you want to go down, Lube? Can I put you, come on, move you up here. Oh my gosh. There we go. So hard to mobilize everything when you've got dogs. Here we go. Oh no, that's not that one. Here we go. Okay, so I've got a book here. I haven't actually read it all. Dusty. Happens when you live with lots of dogs. But for saddle fitting and really understanding the importance of saddle fitting, I highly recommend reading this book. It's backwards. Suffering in Silence by Johann WHOLISTIC. I don't know if that's the correct way. That is backwards. I don't know how to not show it back, but you'll understand. I'll just put Johann WHOLISTIC. I'll put a link up. Suffering in Silence. You can buy it as an ebook as well. I don't know if my dog's gone to the toilet. She's learning. My new puppy is learning house training, and I think you've done a poo somewhere. Oh, house training puppies, hey. Anyway, Johann Schließ, he's got so many videos on YouTube and they're wonderful. And Peter Horobin as well. So I highly recommend in checking out Peter Horobin. Have I got a Peter Horobin link here? Peter Horobin and Johann Schließ on YouTube. Johann Schließ is in Canada. He provides saddles. He's got a website and lots of educational material online. Saddle Fit for Life is also the Facebook page. There's lots of really good information. So this book is the Saddle Fit Link to Physical and Psychological Trauma in Horses. And he comes from an eventing background and he has looked back, like we learn from our mistakes, don't we? I mean, I think with what I've been working with horses and riding professionally in racing for 17 and a half years, working with Off The Track Thoroughbreds and riding for over 20 years. And I mean, the things that, I was into, well, I wasn't in, I guess I was into it, but the whole back then, rounder, deeper, positioning the neck, and had no idea about saddle fit or anything. So Johann Schließ talks about in his eventing days, he was a saddle fitter, but he had no idea. And it was through suffering of horses that he was aware of the changes. So this is a wonderful, wonderful, amazing book. There's just so much reading material. That's so good, but highly recommend. He goes through all the different trees. So here is, see, this is the various types of trees. These are your typical, I haven't read all of this book, but your typical fixed points. And the points down there. So if they're too tight, and that's what the saddle is based out of, the shoulder can't slide through. Anyway, have a read of this book and it'll give you a lot of information on saddle fit. Once again, I recommend Peter Horobin Saddlery in Australia, and I'm pretty sure he provides saddles overseas. And Johann Schließ is over in Canada. Both Peter Horobin and Johann Schließ have websites. Saddle Fit for Life is Johann's website, and Peter Horobin Saddlery is Peter Horobin's. I'm just wondering if I've got some photos. I'll share some links. I've got, I actually spoke to Peter the other day, and we're going to get some educational material together for you guys. And I'll pop that in the group. So let me know in the comments when you watch this live what you would like to know. Are you interested to learn more about saddle fit? Really important for your off-the-track thoroughbreds. Any horse with off-the-track thoroughbreds, they quite often have had negative associations with saddle fit. Track pads are they're not made to fit each individual horse. They quite often sit low in the wither. They can be tight, and so I mean, some of the track pads, oh my God, they're just so narrow. So you're going to sometimes come across negative associations with saddle and saddle fit with your off-the-track thoroughbred. Pain-related or negative associations with being saddled, because horses learn by association. So they're going to associate the saddle with going out for track work or racing, and associate that with stress or anxiety or pain if they've experienced, any type of racing is demanding. Thoroughbred racing is demanding on the horses. So at the smallest level, they're going to get muscle sore. There's a lot of negative associations off the track thoroughbreds have, and I think it's really important to be aware of this and to know that we're needing to now retrain new associations, positive associations for our off the track thoroughbred, and make sure everything that we do with them is not going to contribute to any pain. I mean, it's hard because they're horses, so we have to really learn their body language and do the correct steps. So making sure you get your saddle professionally fitted and going for a saddle that has a good tree in it, like Peter Horobin or Schließ saddles. If you're overseas, and don't know about other saddle fitters. I only know of these two, and they're both very educational, both Peter Horobin and Schließ Saddlery. So I hope that's answered that one for you, Natalie. Do I do any yard work with the saddle first? Yeah. Yeah, I don't. It's a good idea too. By the time you get to the saddle, as I said, you make sure that the saddle's fitted. Definitely do your in-hand work with the saddle. So stopping and going and turning. So yeah, before you get on, I do some yard work. Depending on what type of yard work you're talking about, once again, the yard work, I do equitation science and in-hand work. I don't do the round work where you're running the horse around and putting the saddle on and running them around and letting them get habituated to. Racehorses have been saddled for years and years. They've been saddled since yearlings. They get so-called old school broken in, educated under saddle as yearlings. So they don't need habituating to the saddle as such. They're very used to being girthed up. If anything, probably what's going to happen is you're going to get girthiness from pain-related associations with the girth. You're going to get pain maybe from ulcers and that. So they don't need habituating to the saddle and the girth and things like that. Often they'll need new associations linked to being saddled and ridden and the girth and that, because they're going to have negative associations with it. Not only pain related if it hasn't fit properly, but the girth, quite often the girths are done very tight in racing, but they need to be firm. But they're reefed up very fast sometimes. They can cause pain and pressure if they're not, one side is high up on the buckles and one side is low. So it's more about the negative associations that they have with the saddle and being girthing and being saddled than habituating to the saddle like a green horse that's being freshly educated. So I hope that makes sense. Yeah, so I don't do any running around. I put the saddle on. So, for instance, when I've saddled up the horse, I'll just go in and do my stop and go on my turn and a little trot around on the lunge rein. So I do give them a little trot around. And then it's interesting, and I've got once again all my training with Ty. I didn't do much riding with him in the first days because he wouldn't stand still at the mounting block. So I don't move forward. I don't move forward to the next step if I haven't consolidated the first step. So I spent 3 lessons in itself, just teaching him to stand still at the mounting block and mounting and unmounting before I moved off and continued. So I had started his undersaddle work, but I actually didn't do. In fact, when we saddled, 3 of the lessons were just mounting and unmounting, not even doing any work until I had him nice and relaxed and standing at the mounting block. And I've got all that in video. And when I get myself organized, that will be a retraining. Well, it is a retraining series. I've got it coming now. I've only got 1 lesson up at the moment because of a nightmare situation I think I've mentioned a few times. I accidentally deleted the whole course. That was horrendous, very depressing. I won't talk about it. But anyway, it's coming. I'm redoing it, and I'll redo it even better. So I'll leave that there, Natalie. I hope that makes sense. Any questions, pop them in the comments, reach out in the group. And yeah, let me know how you go with that. Yeah. Okay, my another 2 questions. Do you mind if I quickly just go and put my coffee machine on? I'm going to leave the dogs here to run the fort. I'll just put my coffee, make another coffee, and I'll be back for question 2. Is that nice then, Lulu? You look very relaxed. Okay. That on. Okey-dokey. I know. Okay. Oh, there's my water. Watch out. So nice there. Okay, thank you for your patience there. Okay. Whoopsie doopsie. Now, okie doke. Let's have a look at question 2. Look at that lick. Joni, hey Joni, how are you? I know now. I remember your boy with his mouthing. So Joni has a question. Liba, do you want me to? My dogs are so beautiful. Are you okay? She's got her butt on the chair and she's stretched out. There's a gap, and then she's got her head on my thigh. Do you want to move the chair closer? There we go. That's better. I move the chair closer so she's not so spread out. How about we move Minnie over here? It's dog organising. Okay. Joni, handwork and the very busy horse, eating lead line, just in your face so much, it's hard to get started. Yeah, I know you've been struggling with this, and he's very, very mouthy. I've been looking into it. It's very interesting, the whole mouth and the way they express themselves through the mouth. And I need to learn. I don't think it's been. So I'm just going to pop this on here. I don't think it's been. Oh, sorry, Luby. There's more study being done on it. Sorry. So I know with your fellow, he's always, and I know you've massaged his mouth and things like that. Play with his tongue, and the horse expresses a lot of their tension, anxiety, and emotions are expressed through their mouth. And so I think that your boy has expressing his emotions, or he's very expressive through his mouth from what we've been saying. And some of it may have come from anxiety and stress in racing, and the way that he's been coping with it. It's a bit like crib biting. Everything is with the mouth. It's with if they're uncomfortable with the bit, recently in the group we've been talking about rich strike and how the pain and discomfort he's showing in his mouth. But your boy is very, very mouthy, very, very busy, eating the lead line just in your face so much it's hard to get started. So you've got to go. So what, to me, that goes back to that he's expressing his emotions. He's expressing, it's sort of like I'm not going to say, I feel like it's some type of anxiety that he's expressing. And a lot of it could go down to conflict and unclear training. It's amazing how these type of behaviors disappear when what are you doing? Disappear when you're sitting on my lap. Start to do the in-hand work of stop and go. Now, I don't know if I mentioned to you, there's a video I have of Tommy, and my big chestnut Tommy is very mouthy, probably not as mouthy as your guy, but he wants to chew, he wants to bite me. He, if anything, he gets a little bit colt-like as well. But it's a sign of anxiety and conflict. Equitation science, Andrew says a lot of behavior problems are conflict and confusion. You have to imagine we're handling horses, we're asking them to stop and go and turn and lead, and we expect them to understand what we are wanting, but to them, we are talking a foreign language. Like they have to work out what we want, and this is very stressful for horses. In racing, there's just a lot of conflict in aids and in training, and if anything, racing is basically fitness. They're taught to ride, they stop and go, but they're not taught to be light in the aids, and if anything, they become very habituated to pressure and that. So they don't have a release of pressure. They don't have a release of bit pressure. They get very heavy. and so they don't understand. They habituate to a lot of pressure, and this is confusing when it comes to signals and aids, because they don't know how to get rid of the pressure. They habituate to the pressure, bit pressure, lead rein pressure. They are very so because they have such a high concentrate, high grain diet, they're sort of quite bouncy. There's a lot of adrenaline go through them. So we're asking them, when we're handling them, it's like controlling them. They're just not nice and light to the responses, because they don't need to be for racing. And it's clear, nice, light training aids is not a priority in racing. So for a racehorse, stopping and going and turning and have control is important, but they if they're heavy to stop, they're heavy to stop. That's part of racing. So we need to be able to clear up the training and go back and teach them that stop and go. Stop means release the pressure, and go is we release the pressure when they stop, and go means go forward. I have found with Tommy, and I'm going to go back and continue his training. I've got 3 videos of Tommy. So Joni, I think you watching the retraining with Tommy, which you've probably done, will really help, especially as you watch him improve. He was sick. I had a lot of pasture problems, so I had to stop the progression with his training. And we're just starting to pick that up again now. But for your boy, for instance, when he wants to try and eat the lead rope, I would start with just stop and go. The first things you want to train are stop and go. So the main thing you want to do is to make sure that you have control of his legs. So if he wants to eat the lead rope, he'll probably start to move his legs. So you will find that go back and watch video 1, 2, and 3 with Tommy, retraining an OTTB with Tommy, and you'll see I sort of ignore the chewing and that, and instead I focus on his legs. I want him to stop and go and stand, okay, and stand nice, stand, park with the stop. If he goes to move off, I correct him and go back and stand. And you find when you are clear and you train your stop and go, and then you can step out and away from him a little bit, and he stands there and doesn't move forward or backwards. That's then called self-courage. You'll find that as they get clearer in their training responses, they will drop. He will drop his chewing of the lead rein and things like that. So I would ignore, I'm understanding that you're having problems even getting started somewhere because he wants to chew the lead rein. So ignore the lead rein pressure, a lead rein chewing. But what I say, try take it out of his mouth, but think about what is he doing with his legs when he goes to chew the lead rein? Is he moving? So if you've asked for stop and go, when he goes to chew the lead rein, okay, is he starting to move his legs around or is he standing still? You will find that the chewing of the lead rein is going to coincide with him wanting to move his legs. Once you train him to stop lightly to lead rein pressure and go lightly to lead rein pressure, the chewing will go away. So here is, for an example, eating the lead line is and just so in your face. So if he's in your face, that means he's coming forward into you. Okay, so go back and watch Retraining Tommy 1 and 2 and 3. On my YouTube channel, and you will see Tommy sort of tries to get in my face as well. And you will find and you'll notice that once I ask him to step back, so if your boy's getting in your face, okay, you want to ask him to step back, okay, and stand and reward him, give a scratch, good boy. So just all you need to do, Joni, is retrain your stop and go in hand, and you will find that as he gets lighter and clear and his stop and go response, his chewing and mouthiness and everything is going to decrease because he's going to be clear in his training response. You will see that with Tommy. I'll pick up with Tommy. I'll get some more videos up. Yeah, as I said, the mouthiness and in your face is going to coincide with something happening with his legs. So if you're training stop, his legs need to stand still. And you need to correct him if you've asked him to slow down and stop. When I say correct, it's not punishment. It's just taking him back to the correct response and releasing as still he's done it. As I said, it's a really good example in the videos that I have with Tommy, because Tommy gets very mouthy. He wants to chew the rope. He wants to sort of bite me and bite my hand. So I think going back and watching those, it'll be give you a really good idea of what I'm talking about. But the whole eating the lead line in your face is a symptom of unclear training, anxiety, conflict with something in his life, most probably associated with the past, and unclear training and confusion. So we need to go back and clear up his training so that he understands his stop and go and turn and yield. So to start with his stop and go is really important. You don't have to worry about anything else. I would start with stop, go, and head down. Okay, and when you've got him parking and standing there in self-carriage so you can walk away, when I say walk away, step back a few, just like a meter away from the lead rein, and he doesn't come forward, okay, you're starting to achieve something, and you'll find he'll start to relax there in self-carriage at what is called obedience level, nice and light to the stop and go. He's not going to be light, and he's going to want to move forward and backwards and go and get all sort of like mouthy and that. But you just, if he moves forward with his legs, you ask him to take a step back, stand, praise him, good boy, scratch on the wither. Check the videos out, Joni, and let me know if this makes sense. You're in the group, okay, you're in the academy. You'll see it all with Ty as well. The Ty retraining series is going to have that. But I'll post, I'll repost the Tommy videos in the group. I'll put that down as my notes. Repost Tommy training videos. So all you need to worry about, Joni, is to focus on training your stop and go in hand in your head collar and lead rope. Go back and watch the Tommy retraining videos. And once you have him stopping and standing and going forward on nice light pressure, parking, which is just stop and standing there, and you can walk backwards and he won't move, you will find that the chewing will diminish, and he will settle down with his mouth. Well, I think he will anyway. So let me know how you go with that, and keep an eye out for more training in the academy for that. So I'll leave that there, Joni. Let me know. Pop a comment. Let me know if this makes sense, what you want more clarification with, if you need some. And once again, I have more training coming up for you. Okay, sip of coffee, and I move on to my next question. With dogs here. Having a mouth breather. I got such a short shoulder. Oh, falling apart. I'm not actually, but I had a track work accident on this shoulder back in 2012. I speared the ground with my shoulder, and I had shoulder surgery on this shoulder and 2012, and it's been fantastic. I haven't had any problems with it since. My surgeon was amazing. He did a wonderful job. I had all physio and that. Then in 2019, I did this shoulder in a track work accident. I had surgery on this one. I had a big plate in my collarbone. And this is feeling good now. It's a bit stiff, but it's feeling good. That took a long time to heal. Hence the reason this is part of my recent retirement for track work. But now this shoulder's playing up again. So I've got an appointment with my doctor to get this one checked out. Lucky I'm not riding track work anymore, so I can still have my body healthy to do all my Off the Track Thoroughbred retraining. Okay, Rebecca. Hey, Rebecca, how are you? So I've got your question here. Feeding and rugging during winter. I feel like there is so much conflicting information out there. Yeah, there is conflict. There's so much conflicting information with horses and training and horse management in general, isn't there? So you're in Australia, Rebecca, aren't you? I'm pretty sure you are. Could be wrong. You might not be. But it doesn't matter because regardless, rugging. Now, I found a little chart. I was only reading this the other day. People generally over-rug. They over-rug their horses, and it is not good for them. Horses don't feel the cold like we do, and they can tolerate. There was actually a really good, I think I screenshotted it actually, trying to think. They can go without a rug. I think it gets down to 0 degrees, unless they're old. Okay, so aged horses like my 22-year-old, and 21 is rising 22. So they can't metabolize, their metabolism slows down and they can't keep themselves warm as they get older, at like 20 onwards, as they do when they're younger. So if you've got an aged horse, 19, 20, you do need to rug more so than you do if they're younger, because they can't regulate their heat like they do when they're young. So aged horses are different. They do need rugging when it's cooler, more so than your normal, young horses and horses in their teens. Let me find this. So with rugging, let me find this little chart, because I saw it. I read it, a really good article, and see if I can. I just screenshotted it earlier when I saw your question. But that's because there's everything. Okay, here we go. Here we go. Let me see if I can read it. A rough guide to rugging horses. Okay, well, I can't share it because it's too small. Yeah, this is the one I read. It was really good. So this is in the UK, so it gets really cold over there, as you know. Why can't I'll have to turn it around this way so I can read it a bit. Oh, phone. Turn it around and let me just, there we go. Awesome. So, oh gosh. Okay, here we go. So if my phone's gone weird, I'll turn it around this way and zoom in. So 15 degrees Celsius and warmer. Okay, so if you've got clipped horses, that's different as well. So a clipped stabled horse is going to need rugging, definitely more. It says here on the chart, just to read this one, 15 degrees and warmer, a zero fill for a stable clipped horse. So you've got just a sheet on. Stabled, unclipped, nothing, 15 degrees and warmer. Turned out, unclipped, nothing. 10 degrees to 15 degrees. So stable clipped is lightweight, so 100 gram, okay, or zero fill. And this is a clipped horse, so you remember that. Stabled, so a stabled horse that's unclipped, and it's 10 degrees to 15 degrees. You can have nothing or just a zero fill like a sheet. Stabled, unclipped, nothing, and zero fill, so they don't need 15, what was it? 10 degrees to 15. They don't need rugging if they're unclipped, and definitely turned out, nothing. We do have, sheets. We do need sheets because in sometimes if there's bugs and insects like up in Queensland, so some really nice light cotton sheets. I don't have a problem with cotton sheets or anything like that. We just don't want to get the horse hot because they don't feel the cold like we do. So 5 degrees to 10 degrees. So a clipped stabled horse has a medium weight 250 gram rug on. This is 5 degrees to 10 degrees. So a stabled horse that is unclipped has a medium weight 250 gram. A lightweight 150 gram. The reason they need a rug in the stable is because they can't move around and stay warm. So they need to be rugged more in the stable than they would out in the paddock, where they can keep themselves warm by roaming and grazing and being active. So a stabled unclipped horse is the same, just a lightweight 150 gram rug, which fits 5 degrees to 10 degrees. And a turned out unclipped horse is nothing or a lightweight rug of 100 grams. So that's 5 degrees to 10 degrees. So, okay, 0 degrees to 4 degrees. If your horse is stabled and is clipped, they need a good heavy rug of about 300 grams. 0 degrees to 10 degrees of a stabled horse that is unclipped, a medium weight rug of about 200 grams. Turned out, unclipped, nothing, light to medium weight, 150 to 200 grams. Now, isn't this interesting? So we're looking at 0 to 4 degrees. So you've got a lot of our rugs here in Australia, you get the 300 gram rugs. Now, I know Off the Track Thoroughbreds, they sort of tend to have a fine coat. That is something to consider. They're still horses. They're still all the same, okay? They will grow a winter coat, and their winter coat is used to, they fluff it up when they get cold. They grow the winter coat, they fluff the coat up when they get cold, and that traps the heat. So what happens if we start to rug our horse too early, and it actually affects their ability to keep warm. So it flattens their coat down. They can't fluff their coat up, and they can't thermoregulate naturally. So in a sense, rugging our horses too much is detrimental because they can't fluff up their coat to trap heat. So not good to over rug. And then you have to realize as well that if you have a situation where you leave the rugs on of a daytime, so you get up early and then the sun comes out of a daytime, it's cool overnight, but the sun comes out of a day and you still got a 300 gram rug on, that's not going to be good for your horse because they're going to get way too hot. They can't naturally thermoregulate, and it's going to stress them out. It's not good being hot. So I'll go back to this. I did the 0 to 4 degrees. So turned out, unclipped, of course, 0 to 4 degrees, nothing or a light to medium weight rug, 150 to 200 gram rug. Bailey, don't bark. Now we get into the cold stuff. Now I'm down near Canberra and it can get down here to -8 in winter. So definitely if you had a stabled clipped horse, you are going, guys, don't bark. Sorry, I'm having dog moment here. No barkies. Ruby. So we've got 0 degrees to -10 degrees. If you've got a clipped stabled horse, you're going to need a good warm rug. Okay, heavy weight, 300 grams to 400 grams. If you've got a stabled horse and they're unclipped, medium weight rug, 200 grams to 300 grams. And if you have a turned out horse, okay, unclipped, so you only need, you can get away with 150 grams to a 300 gram rug if you're turned out and unclipped, okay, light to medium. So I would say with thoroughbreds that have come out of racing, I would go on the heavier side, definitely. They're used to being stabled. They have a fine coat generally, and they need to adjust and adapt to turnout life if you have your horse turned out. So this is 0 degrees to -10 degrees. So that's cold. So definitely rug your horse if it's 0 degrees, -10 degrees. They do need a rug, especially a thoroughbred, off the track thoroughbred, because they have a finer coat and they need to adjust to the new life of being turned out and, you know, in paddocks and pasture. But don't go for anything. Like, be aware that if it's a lovely sunny day like here, I mean, we're having amazing weather here at Canberra, except for all the rain, but it is just beautiful outside. I have none of my horses rugged at the moment. I'm down near Canberra. I did have Sam And my old horse, I have got him rugged. It was that warm the other night. He got even hot under his very fine 100-gram rug. So I took that off. So he's 21, and I do make sure I rug him, but I will take it off during the day on a sunny day. So let's look here, below 10 degrees. Well, that's freezing, and we don't get this here in Australia, thank God. For you guys over overseas, you're going to want a rug. And you would know below minus 10, heavyweight rug, definitely for a stabled, clipped horse. 300 to 500 grams plus a neck cover. Medium to heavyweight, for a stabled, unclipped horse, you've got 300 to 400 grams plus a neck cover. So you want to rug in these really, really cold days of minus 10 beyond. Turned out, unclipped, minus 10 over, it's cold, 300 grams to 500 grams plus a neck cover. So that's getting really cold. And you want to rug. That's below minus 10. So you 0 to 10 degrees to your rug. Okay. This is going turned out, unclipped. You're going to rug between 0 to 10 degrees, 150 grams to 300 grams in and off the track thoroughbred. I would probably go towards the more heavy. You can get away with 200 grams. Be aware that we want to try and take them off in sunny days, and that it's more detrimental to leave a rug on in the heat than it is to not rug them overnight time if it's not getting really cold. And now saying this, this is if it's not raining and wind and freezing cold, well, you're going to want to rug. So if it's raining, that makes it worth. I like to really keep my horses rugged in the rain in winter because it does get very cold. Okay, so... And it says here, this is intended as a rough guide only, so you must assess an individual horse's needs accordingly. So that gives you basically a rough guide to the rug situation. I did have the horses can tolerate. Where's this? Horses. Let me just see if I can find this. I kept it somewhere. I've got so many notes. I don't know where it is. So horses. I did. There was a Facebook post actually. Let me see if I can find it for you. What they can, our horses compared to us, body regulation. I need to be more organized with my notes so I can. Okay, let me see if I can find. Horses are very adaptable to different climates. Horses are incredibly adaptable when it comes to climate and are found in both some of the hottest and the coldest places on earth, ranging from minus 40 degrees to 60 degrees. God, 60 degrees. Where does it get 60 degrees? That's horrendous. I couldn't handle that hot. I couldn't handle that cold either. That's terrible. Being warm-blooded, the horse tries to keep his central core temperature as close to 38 degrees as possible. However, in very cold climates, the extremities of the body, such as the feet, may fall as low as 5 to 10 degrees or reach as high as 60 degrees when standing on hot sand. So it must be in the desert, the 60 degrees. Okay, we won't go into reptiles. Okay, in simple terms, the horse will feel cold or hot when the air temperature falls between 0 degrees, the lower critical temperature, or rises above 25 degrees, the upper critical temperature. This is known as the horse's thermoneutral zone. Within this temperature range, so I've got dog squishing here. Oh. Hey, Kate, how are you? Awesome. Glad to hear. Yes, it's interesting rugging. I just read an article about it. Lots to catch up with in the live. I answered. I'll read and tell you. I'll finish the live with the questions that I answered so you know what the live is about. I've got dogs all over the place here, 2 on my lap. Yeah, so within the temperature, what was this? In simple terms, I read that. Let me read it again. The horse will feel cold or hot when the air temperature falls below 0 degrees. Okay, so if it gets below 0 degrees, then we want to consider rugging our horses, definitely. And then you've got the rain and the wind on top of that as well to consider. Or rises above 25 degrees, which is the upper critical temperature. This is known as the horse's thermoneutral zone between 0 and 25 degrees. Within this temperature range, it's easy for the horse to control its body temperature by simply opening and closing blood vessels in the skin to lose or retain heat carried in the blood. Outside these temperatures, the horse must use other means to keep warm or cool. At temperatures above 25 degrees, the horse may increase its heart rate to circulate more blood to the skin. More blood vessels in the skin may open. The horse may also start to increase its respiratory rate and may start to sweat. So we know the sweating cools the horse down. Their ability to sweat cools it down, like as in humans. In addition, the horse may also change its behavior, for example, seeking shade or walking into the water. When the temperature drops below 0 degrees, the horse needs to keep heat in. It may do this by increasing its metabolic rate, effectively turning up its central heating and using more fuel. So that's using the fuel. So this is where having ad lib, long stem forage, ad lib is really important to keep horses warm. Seeking shelter from wind and rain, letting its limbs drop to a lower temperature by reducing how much blood flows through them. And again, if it gets really cold, by shivering. Nevertheless, the temperature range changes between summer and winter, and the horse may have a lower range in winter once they become used to cold weather. So they're cold acclimatized. So a horse's body temperature is a balance between how much heat is being produced and how much is being lost. If it's cold, then the horse loses heat more rapidly and must increase its heat production and or decrease its heat loss by letting its extremities get colder to prevent its temperature falling. Okay, so it goes into why we use rug. Okay, risks of rugging or over-rugging. Sweating causes the skin to become hyperhydrated, the effect you get when you stay in the bath too long. There we go. More prone to damage and infection. So this is if the horse starts to sweat under the rug. The horse uses a considerable amount of energy to keep warm. So if the horse is too heavily rugged, then less energy is lost and will be deposited as fat, leading to weight gain. So if you've got a big fat horse, well, that's often we don't have big fat off the track thoroughbreds, do we? So we don't need to worry about that one. Oh, this is interesting. The colder the air temperature, the bigger the difference between the horse's surface skin. Have we read that? Oh, no, I read that one. Oh, no, I didn't. The colder the air temperature, the bigger the difference between the horse's surface, skin and coat temperature, and the air, and the faster heat moves from hot to cold. This is known as convective heat loss. Add in wind and the heat is lost even faster by the process of forced convection, or what we refer to as the wind chill factor. Well, we know that when it's really, really cold. Yeah, catch up on the replay, Kate. Yep. Gone over a lot in this this live. So even in winter, we gain heat, some heat from the sun. Okay. So we know that older horses need rugging. Okay. Heat production, so diet, heat production is greater on high fiber diets, so compared with high starch and or high oil-based feeds. Okay, so this is where so this is for Rebecca, the feeding. So we've gone over the rugging. Horses, you don't want to over rug, so you don't need to rug as much as quite often as rugged in Australia. So I went over that chart, but diet. So this is really, really, really important. It's so important, I mean, generally for all health, but particularly keep warm, to have ad lib ad lib long stem forage for the horse to graze on, so that in cold weather, because it keeps the grazing, the digestion of long stem forage in the hindgut produces heat to keep the horse warm. So I'll read this. So it actually creates heat production, is a lot greater on high fiber, high forage diets compared to a high starch and or high oil-based diet. So horses and ponies living out in very cold climates, such as in Canada in winter, are able to maintain body condition if they have unlimited access to good quality forage. Increased addition of energy to the diet should only really be necessary when the average temperature drops below 0 degrees for several weeks, or for young horses and ponies, or for older horses that are in poor condition. Now, this is a little bit different with our off-the-track thoroughbreds, because they are harder to maintain weight. They have got an unhealthy digestive system. Oh, here we go. I'm going dogs. Guys, don't bark. Hey. Ruby, Chrissy. There's a mouse in the house. Minnie. Chris. Sorry, I'm having dogs. Lucky we nearly finished the live. What was I doing? Yeah, so the digestion of long stem forage creates heat production in the horse's body, which keeps them warm. So the starch, when you go down there, the starch, a high starch, high grain diet doesn't do that. So to help keep your horse warm, it's really important to have ad lib long stem forage. Green grass isn't going to do it. They need to have the long stem fibrous haze. We're having a... Okay. So we went over the coat. As the coat raises, it traps heats. Okay, so we've gone over that. So we've gone over the rug. So just basically 0 to 25 degrees is the horse's comfort range for heat. Once again, it's individual. You've got your rain and the wind chill factor. You've got an off-the-track thoroughbred that also something to consider with off-the-track thoroughbreds is we are wanting to feed them a very high fiber long stem forage diet to create that heat production. As the horse digests the fiber in the hindgut, it creates heat and that keeps them warm. The thing to consider with off-the-track thoroughbreds is because they've had such a high starch, high concentrate diet, they've quite often got hindgut acidosis. Their microbiome, healthy gut bacteria, is not functioning as good as it normally can, so it takes a lot longer for them to digest the forage. That's why they quite often don't maintain weight really well when they come off the track. It takes about a year to kill the bad bacteria that digests grains and starch, which is what they've been eating in racing. And the good bacteria takes a lot longer than the bad bacteria to multiply. So to rehabilitate their gut with a grain-free, low-starch, high-fiber, high-forage diet, and then they can digest the high forage much better, and then that in turn is going to keep them warm. So that's something to consider with off-the-track thoroughbreds, as well as they're not going to digest the high forage diet as well as a horse that's been off the track for years and years and has all the good bacteria. So they may get colder than another horse. So I would probably rug an off-the-track thoroughbred in the cooler weather, more so than maybe a horse that's been off the track for years and years and it's held condition for a while. So some of my horses that have been off the track for years hold condition really well. Others that have only been off the track for 6 months, even a year or so, they tend to lose weight in the cooler weather, but they tend to lose weight as you're transitioning to a grain-free diet. You've got to not so much worry about you need to worry about the condition of your horse, but this is what I notice a lot with people. They're so worried about their horses are looking a little bit ribby and thin when they've come off the track, and I've got to get my horse fat and healthy and looking good. So they start to give these starchy, fatty feeds that put on weight, like bran and all this wheat feed will bulk up and put on weight on your horse, but it's not good for the horse. It's damaging the hindgut. It's not generating heat, okay, to keep your horse in warm in winter. It's feeding the bad bacteria. So we want to, instead of thinking I've got to get my horse fat, I've got this off the track thoroughbred, he's looking a bit ribby, look at the type of diet that you're giving your horse. Look at feeding a really clean, grain-free diet. No, all these prepackaged feeds are no good, especially the ones you get over in the US and the UK. They're terrible. Make sure there's no wheat middlings or byproducts or grain distillers in them. Go to the natural diet as much as possible so you can determine that your off the track thoroughbred is getting. Minnie, do you want to come back up? Sorry. Oh my gosh. The correct amount of feed by weight. So just say an off the track thoroughbred, just say you average 500 kilos, and he's got off the track. He's not looking that crash hot. He's a bit ribby. Don't pump him up with all this grainy, starchy, prepackaged feeds. Think of rehabilitating their gut instead. Like us, we're going on a detox, healthy. We want the horse to be healthy. We want a nice, healthy hindgut. It's going to support him in the future. It's going to prevent ulcers from happening. It's going to prevent hindgut acidosis. So just clean out the diet. Go for a really nice, low starch hay, Rhodes hay, some lucerne hay, and make sure they have ad lib hay. So do the weight thing. So a horse needs minimum of 1%, with an off the track thoroughbred, minimum of 1.5% of long stem forage. So feed a day, 1.5% of their body weight. So to 2.5%. So just say an average 2% of body weight in hay, long stem forage. So just say a 500 kilo horse, you're looking at 1%. I'm having a mental blank, is 5 kilos. You're looking at 10 kilos of weight a day of long stem forage in a good fiber, so a low starch. Now, this weight is not green grass, and tell me I'm having a nightmare with green grass at the moment. I have had a terrible problem with my horses, and I'm finding green grass and green pasture is just terrible. So green grass is not good for horses. It's not, you look at the green, it's lush, it's green, it's full of sugar, and it hasn't got if you weigh green grass, so get 1 kilo of green grass compared to 1 kilo of a nice lucerne hay or a nice rose grass hay, you're going to need a heap more of lucerne grass. So it hasn't got the fiber content in it. So try, if you're on a green pasture, provide a nice low starch fibrous hay for them to eat, and heal their hindgut, and also that keeps them warm, and it will probably cut down the amount of green pasture that they eat, because the green pasture, depending on the type of pasture you have, it's high in sugars. With my situation, I've got high fructans. So fructans are like starch. The horse cannot digest the fructans, which is a type of sugar. So it goes into the hindgut undigested, and it causes an acidic hindgut. So pasture in itself is a nightmare unless you have nice native grasses. So something to consider. It's more expensive, isn't it? Most of the time we have to supplement with some type of hay anyway. But just because you have a lot of green pasture doesn't mean you're a lot better. In fact, you can be a bit worse. So when feeding, Rebecca, going back to that, ad lib, nice long stem forage of a low starch hay. I feed Rhodes hay and lucerne. I'm getting what we call a Manuka haylage, okay, and ad lib that all through winter. Don't over rug, 0 to 25 degrees, depending on what condition your off the track thoroughbred is. Rug when it's cold, but don't over rug, and go by that chart that I mentioned to you, which I read earlier, and if it's a nice sunny day, take the rugs off. So yeah, I might leave it there. It's been quite a long live. I'm going to read out the questions so that you know what I've talked about. so you can go back and listen. If you've got an hour and a half to spend, you can watch this replay. I'll read out the questions that we had. So, okay. So you know what I talked about in this live? So my first question that I started with at the beginning of the live was a question from Natalie Ranger. So Natalie asked, how do you decide when it's time to move from hand-led work to saddling up? Saddle recommendations, fitting, and do you do any yard work with the saddle first before riding? Many thanks, Natalie. So I answered Natalie's question first. And then I moved on to Joni's question. Joni asks, handwork and the very busy horse. So a horse that's eating the lead line. So it's really in your face. So much, it's hard to get started. So I know what you're struggling with, Joni, because I know we've spoken about your boy before. So I've answered Joni's question in the second question in the live. And then Rebecca had a question, feeding and rugging during winter. I feel like there is so much conflicting information out there. So I answered Rebecca's question, the third question, at the third half of this live. So I hope that this live has been helpful. I will share. Oh, no, I think you've seen enough dogs this live, haven't you? So have a lovely week. If you have any questions, you can pop a question. I always do a reminder for the weekly Q&A. We're doing it at the moment at 8 a.m. though I tend to be a bit late sometimes. Sorry, I'm a little bit disorganized at the moment. But we'll get back into a routine eventually. 8 a.m. Monday, Australian Eastern Standard Time on YouTube. I will work out how to live stream on Facebook as well. Haven't worked that out yet. And any questions, I always put up a reminder. You can pop your question in the reminder before the live, and I will answer for you in the Q&A. And there will be a replay to watch afterwards. On YouTube, it takes a little bit longer for the replay to upload. So I will get this replay out. It probably won't finish uploading, being a longer one today, till probably won't be able to get the replay up till later on this afternoon. But I'll get that up for you. Thank you for watching, and thank you for watching the replay. I hope you enjoy it, and also see you in the group. And bye. We'll get Minnie to say bye. Hey, Minnie. Minnie's always on my lap. And I'll introduce you to my new puppy. Yes, I've got a beautiful new whippet. Long story. I'm so in love. My heart is healed from my loss of my last whippet, Laszlo. So I'm very lucky. I only picked her up yesterday. So I'll introduce you to her in next week's live. Okay, see you then. Bye.